My name is Dorothea Vansittart, and I am 95 years old. I was born in a town so small it didn't even earn a proper dot on most road maps. Crest Hollow, West Virginia, wedged between two ridges that the locals called the Shoulders, as though the earth itself were shrugging at whatever happened inside that valley. I have outlived 2 husbands, 1 son, 4 sisters, a beloved wire-haired terrier named Peculiar, and apparently even death itself, because death looked me square in the face last February, breathed its cold breath across my sternum, and then turned away. And in the interval between the moment my heart stopped and the moment the defibrillator paddles brought me screaming back into my wrinkled skin, I saw things. I was shown things. Things I did not ask to see. Things that have left me sleeping with the lamp on ever since. Things that concern a man the whole world already can't stop arguing about. I am not a woman who chases attention. I never was. In 80 years of church-going, First Redeemer Tabernacle, not one of those fancy congregations with projection screens and coffee bars. I sat in the 3rd pew from the back and kept my mouth shut during fellowship hour, unless someone asked me something direct. I raised my children, I canned my tomatoes, I prayed my prayers in the dark of my own bedroom, where only the Lord could hear the exact wording, and I considered that sufficient. So understand that telling this publicly is not a thing I arrived at easily. My granddaughter Thessaly, she runs one of those internet channels where she talks about prophecy and current events. She asked me to sit in front of her camera and tell everything I remembered. I refused 3 times. Then I had a dream. The dream told me to stop refusing. I am not in the habit of arguing with dreams that arrive in that particular quality of light. So here I am. It started on a Tuesday. I know because Tuesday is when Adeline Pescara, my neighbor from across the garden fence, brings me the puzzle magazines from the pharmacy in town. She just left. I just set the magazines on the kitchen table next to my tea, and I felt something in my chest that I can only describe as a door closing. Not painful exactly, more like the sensation of a familiar sound stopping, the refrigerator hum you never notice until the power goes out. One moment there was a hum in the center of me, and then there wasn't. I sat down on the kitchen floor quite calmly. I remember thinking, well, this is the floor. This is an interesting development. And then the kitchen was gone. What replaced it was not darkness. People say I saw a tunnel and I saw a bright light, and I understand why they reach for those words, because our language was not built for what I'm trying to describe. But I want to be more precise than that. What I entered was not a tunnel. It was more like the inside of a sound, a particular note held for so long that it became a place, a resonance made into geography. The light was not white. It was the color of late afternoon sun hitting very old paper, that amber gold that carries warmth without blinding. And it came from everywhere and nowhere simultaneously, which I know sounds like nonsense, but I can only report what I experienced. I was aware of my body the way you're aware of your coat when you've been wearing it for hours. Present, but not demanding. I was more myself than I had been in decades, clearer, the fog of age simply absent. My vision, which hasn't been reliable since 2017, was extraordinary. I could see individual fibers in what I can only call the fabric of the air around me. I could hear something that wasn't music, but served the same function music serves, organizing the emotions, giving them somewhere to stand. And then he was there. I have tried to find the right verb for the way he arrived, and I keep coming back to precipitated, the way salt precipitates out of a supersaturated solution. He didn't walk in, he didn't descend, he simply became visible, the way meaning becomes visible in a sentence once you understand it. He was not what I'd imagined from Sunday school illustrations. He was not Nordic. He was not the gentle shepherd of the greeting cards. He was, and I understand if this is hard to hold on to, ancient in a way that had nothing to do with age. A tree is not young. A mountain is not young. He was like those things, immovable and yet somehow leaning toward me with complete attention. He did not speak in English. He did not speak in words at all precisely, but I understood everything he communicated, the way you understand a piece of music, wholly, without parsing. And what he communicated first was this: you are known. Every particular of you is known and has always been known, which sounds like something you'd find stitched on a pillow, I'm aware. But the weight of actually experiencing that knowledge, of having your entire life, every embarrassment and failure and midnight fear, held in something's awareness and found not contemptible, is a weight I cannot adequately transfer to you through language. I wept. I wept in a way I hadn't wept since my son Cornelius died in 2008, and even then not quite like this, because this weeping was not grief. It was the weeping of enormous relief. Then the quality of the light changed. It shifted from amber gold to something cooler, grayer, not unpleasant, but different, the way a room changes when a cloud passes over the sun. He turned his attention, not his face exactly, though I perceived it as a kind of turning, and in the direction he turned, images began to form. Not like a movie projected on a screen, more the way frost forms on glass, organically, following lines I couldn't predict, filling in detail from the outside edges inward. I saw Washington first. I recognized it even in the altered state I was in, the particular geometry of those buildings, their heavy classical faces. But the city looked different, not destroyed, not on fire. Rather, it looked like a place that had been holding its breath for a long time and was only now beginning to exhale. There was a quality of stillness to the streets that reminded me of the way Crest Hollow looked on Sunday mornings in my childhood, before the cars came through. A deliberate pause, expectant. Then I saw him, Donald Trump. I knew him immediately, not from his physical features alone, but from the particular pressure the vision put around him, the way certain dreams mark their important characters with a kind of italics. He was not in the White House. He was in a room I didn't recognize, wood-paneled, lower-ceilinged, a table with papers across it, and windows behind showing nothing but pale sky. He looked older than I'd last seen him on Thessaly's channel, heavier in some way that wasn't about weight, that quality of a man who has been carrying something for a long time without putting it down. Around him stood figures I understood as adversaries. I couldn't see their faces with any resolution. They were impressionistic, like portraits done quickly in charcoal, and their intent was hostile. I could feel the hostility the way you feel cold air from an open freezer door, even before you look to see what's left it open. They had documents, and the documents mattered, and they believed the documents would accomplish something they had long been trying to accomplish. And then he showed me something I did not expect, a hand. Not a human hand, or not only a human hand, something that was more the idea of a hand than any physical thing, moved across that scene. Not violently, with the calm precision of someone straightening a crooked picture frame, and the documents scattered, not destroyed, simply rendered beside the point. The scene continued, the figures continued moving, but their urgency became hollow, performative, like actors going through motions in a play whose audience has already left. The threat was real. The threat simply would not succeed in the way its authors intended. I turned to him, insofar as I could turn toward something that was all around me, and I had a single enormous question, which was, why are you showing me this? And what came back was not an answer I'd expected. What came back was, because you will not embellish it, because you have no stake in any political outcome, because your hands have been in the soil long enough that you know a thing is not its weather. That last part, I've thought about it so many times since returning to this body, to this kitchen floor, to Adeline's alarmed face above mine, asking, did I fall, Dorothea? A thing is not its weather. I grew up farming. I know what that means. A crop is not the drought that threatens it. A tree is not the storm that bends it. The outcome of a life, or a nation, is not reducible to the particular season of difficulty it is currently suffering through. I was there in that place for what felt like an afternoon's worth of experience. I am told my heart stopped for approximately 4 minutes before the paramedics revived me on the kitchen floor. I want to note that those 4 minutes were more densely inhabited than most years of my waking life. Before I came back, he showed me one more thing. A single image, brief, with none of the detail of the other visions. A wide landscape. I couldn't place the region. Under the kind of dawn light that is not yet blue, not quite gold, that impossible in-between color that only exists for 8 or 9 minutes and which photographers apparently call the magic hour. And that landscape was, unmistakably, peaceful. Whatever the weather had been, the weather had passed. I came back to my kitchen floor gasping, which Adeline later described as the most frightening sound she had ever heard. and she is a woman who grew up next to a slaughterhouse. The paramedics were competent and brisk. They asked me standard questions in the ambulance. What year was it? Who was the president? Could I follow their finger with my eyes? I answered all of them correctly and did not mention where I had just been, because there is a time for that conversation, and the back of an ambulance with a blood pressure cuff on your arm is not it. I spent 11 days in Crest Hollow Regional. My granddaughter Thessaly drove 4 hours to sit with me. On the third day, when I was breathing better and the doctors were cautiously using words like stable, I told her everything. She sat very still the entire time, which is unusual for Thessaly, who normally takes up a great deal of room in any given space with her energy. When I finished, she was quiet for a while. Then she said, "Grandma Dot, people need to hear this." And I said, "People need a lot of things, and I'm not sure I'm the delivery mechanism." And she said, "You're the only one who saw it. You're the only one who can say it." I've been home for 6 weeks now. I take more medication than I used to, and my steps are shorter, and I tire more quickly, and I am, quite obviously, closer to the end of my life than I am to any beginning of it. I do not say this for sympathy. I say it because I want you to understand that I have very little reason to fabricate or embellish. I am not building a career. I am not seeking followers. I am a 95-year-old woman from a town between 2 ridges in West Virginia, and I was dead for 4 minutes. And the Lord showed me things, and I was told by something far more authoritative than my own conscience that I was the right vessel for the telling of it, because I would not twist it to suit any preference of my own. The political arguments will continue. They were continuing when I left, and they were certainly continuing when I came back. The figures with the documents will continue doing what they do. And from the long perspective of 95 years, I will tell you that I have seen every kind of American storm. And what he showed me in that amber light was not the end of any storm, but the evidence that the landscape on the other side of it exists and is, against every reasonable bet, beautiful. My mother used to say, "Don't mistake the creek in flood for the creek." A creek in flood is not the creek's final statement. It is the creek having a particularly loud week. The creek was there before the flood, and God willing, or in this case, as I now have somewhat more direct evidence, more than willing, the creek will be there after. I am going to go make myself a cup of tea now. Adeline is coming with the puzzle magazines again. Life continues in its small, careful loop, and I am grateful for every mundane revolution of it in a way that the pre-February version of me was not adequately capable of. You return from that place, and the kitchen floor is extraordinary. The puzzle magazines are extraordinary. The sound of Peculiar, gone 12 years now, who I heard briefly, I should mention, barking somewhere in that resonant light, joyful and unchanged. All of it carries a weight of preciousness that I hope does not fade before I go back there for good, which will not be long now, and which I no longer face with any of the fear I carried for decades. What is coming will come. What he showed me about the man in the wood-paneled room is this. The hand that straightens pictures is still straightening. The dawn on the other side of the weather is real. And that is all I was given to say, and I have said it. Dorothea Van Sittart, Crest Hollow, West Virginia, March 2025. If this testimony moved something in you, please like this video and subscribe. More prophetic voices are coming that you won't want to miss.